All right, welcome to another episode of D&Debates, where we sit down and argue about who has the best opinions about Dungeons and Dragons. Today's episode will be covering Unearthed Arcana, which, if you are not familiar, is a set of articles that Wizards of the Coast publishes in order to send new content into the ether, get it play tested, and then get their feedback back on it. It's something they've been doing since the beginning of D&D 5th edition, and we've concocted some questions to find my debaters' opinions on it. I am Scott Gilman, and I will be moderating today.
I'm Corey Lee. I will be debating today.
I am Jake Simmons, and I guess I am also debating today.
I'm Amanda Sharkey, and I'll also be debating with the gardener outside of the leaf blower. Sorry about that.
All right. So as you know, the structure of this show, we will have 3 questions, 2 of which the debaters have heard ahead of time. Each of these questions will have a set of rounds: opening statements, chaos round, and final statements. During the chaos round, people will be able to respond to each other. During the third question, none of the debaters have heard. I will posit it to them without any preparation, and we will just follow the will of the dice for who goes first. With all that out of the way, you all ready to start?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Question 1. For me, new subclasses and character options are some of the most exciting options presented in the Unearthed Arcana articles. However, not every subclass is met with a favorable reception, and novel concepts like the Seeker Warlock or Onomancy Wizard aren't developed further and fall into the dreaded realm of dead UA. Tell me a dead UA subclass that you think was criminal to kill. Act as though I am a lead rules designer at Wizards of the Coast who has the capability to resurrect just one dead UA subclass, and tell me why yours should be the pick. I will roll a d6 going clockwise on my screen. Jake, you are up first. For this question, I will give you a minute and, let's get fancy with it, 40 seconds.
Oh, wow. Nice.
I thought you were saying just a minute, and I got really scared.
I'll be like, go for it. Go for speed racing. All right, yes, I shall start. I am going to argue for the giant soul sorcerer. Now, I'll start with the, we all know one of the biggest weaknesses of a sorcerer wizard is they're easy to kill. And you know, Scott, I know you love having high con. Well, this subclass gives you the opportunity to be a kind of tanky sorcerer. There's a way of getting like 150 hit points by level 14 or something, which is pretty good for a sorcerer. But that's not the main reason I'm arguing for this. Is I think that the new subclass should spice things up and kind of give an opportunity that isn't already in the game. And with this one, it's not just a subclass, but it's also a multi-path subclass. Like you can attune yourself to a specific giant type, which will give different spells and different effects that kind of combo with each other. And it means you can just play it over and over again. It never gets old. I mean, and some of the combos that you can get with it are pretty cool. Like if you go with the Hill Giant one, you can become gargantuan at level 18. And with the Cloud Giant one, you can make a fog cloud, teleport it into it, and like be a ninja. But you know, and also kind of lore-wise, giants in a lot of games are kind of this ancient race that walked the world before humans. So that would be kind of cool to have like a connection to that. And if not, that's still fine. And I think it's just very, very unique. And I think it would give something to the sorcerer class that is currently lacking.
Very compelling points. I liked that you fed into my high con bias. Let's see who's going next. Amanda, we're at you.
Perfect. So here's the thing. I want to clarify as a start that I'm not all familiar with UA, and I don't think any of us are here, which is going to make for a fun debate. But one thing I do know is playtesting, the game iteration process, and that's what I'm here to argue for, why I'm here to argue for the Bard College of Satire. Now, this is a subclass which at first I had to double check was still UA because I've heard of it so much. I've seen it played online before. I'm like, oh, that's a thing, right? It's been published. And I believe it was published in an older edition, and they kind of brought it back in a UA about revisiting older things. But I'm like, it's so common. People want to play a roguish, jester-like bard. I've seen online artists who draw like their bard OCs or bard characters, and a lot of them are cool jester themes. And I think mechanically it is very balanced, it's sound, has a lot of cool, unique abilities that both tie in to bards and bardic inspiration, while also giving it them new abilities and new things to do. It's not too powerful, not too weak, it is just right. It's already been iterated a few times from older editions. It is ready to go. You know, lead designer Scott, first of all, I want a job. Can I send you my resume after this? This is a perfect class to bring in. The community wants it. It is game ready. People already play it. People are already trying to play it, recreate it. It is a flavorful thing, that jester, that sort of edgy bard. It is, in this day and age of D&D, that is such a desired thing. People already flavor their characters, their bards and their rogues to fit this archetype. I think it is perfect. It's flavorful, fun, fantastic. College of Satire, go for it.
All right. Again, almost at time, well timed. And Corey, bring up the rear. Some good arguments made so far. Let's see what you have.
All right, Scott, I have got a pitch for you. Let's do some role play. All right, this is D&D. We're used to role play. Okay, I'll set the scene. We're on an elevator. You're on an elevator. Door opens. I walk in. Ding. Oh, hey, sir. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm good. I've just been working on a few things. Ding. Doors close. I reached for the buttons. Which floor?
Third.
Third. I pressed third. Yeah, you know, I've just been working on some UA stuff. Actually, I've been doing some digging, and I found a subclass that might be worth reviving. Would you mind if I ran it by you real quick?
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, we can set an office meeting for this.
Well, we're here. What else are we going to do? It's for the Scout Fighter. Now, the thing with the Scout Fighter is that it's a very interesting subclass that blends a very Ranger-like flavor into a fighter that focuses on ranged attacks. It's perfect for any player who wants to have a truly Legolas-like character in their party, and D&D sorely needs more subclasses that cater to archers, because while Arcane Archer is viable in its own right, it relies more on magic than just being a good ranged martial fighter. It's also a great subclass for multi-classing out of and into because of its strength at early levels. And what's more, it's a very simple subclass that new players could easily pick up and play well. Ding, the door's open. Well, this is my floor. I walk out. Hopefully we can get somewhere with that UA, but for now, have a great day. The ding, elevator doors close. You go to your office and immediately get working on bringing the Scout Fighter back to life.
How did you somehow do like a whole scene and your pitch was still 20 seconds shorter than the other people's?
Because its actual pitch for the class was
Because
like
it's
10
weak and it
seconds.
lacks strength. It's not a strong argument. I'm ready to go fight for Satire Bard and shit on Scout Fighter.
With that, I think that's the right tone we want to set for the thing.
Oh, I'm here to throw hands today. I'm here to win and I'm here to throw hands.
Around 6 minutes. Go ahead.
Well, I'd like to just start by demolishing the Scouts.
Scout is broken.
Just let me read for you the one-sentence flavor text for this subclass. The archetypal Scout excels at finding safe passage through dangerous regions. Scouts usually favor light armor and ranged weapons, but they are comfortable using heavier gear when they faced with intense fighting. That is literally a ranger. That is literally a ranger. And its only ability that is unique is literally Natural Explorer, which rangers have the exact same thing.
I agree with Jake. Also, story time. Fun fact, a while ago, I think I was running a one-shot for my school's club, and I had one of my players ask me, hey, do you allow UA in your game? And I'm like, oh, it depends. What do you want to play? And they're like, Scout Fighter. So I look it up, and I'm like, oh, absolutely not. This thing is broken. Those third-level abilities, the superiority dice abilities, insane. The fact that you can apply them after you make the roll, but like before you know the result, that is broken. That is a high-level ability when you have like certain, you can add dice to things, to checks and attack rolls or AC things. Being able to do that after the roll is made, that is so overpowered. like once you know the AC, like just it tackles an AC, it's so broken. That is not a balanced thing they can just throw into the game right now.
I mean, if we're talking about overpowered, let me tell you the third level satire ability. As a bonus action, you gain the benefits of a dash and disengage. You gain climbing speed equal to your current movement. You take half damage from falling. You could do this every single turn. That is
So,
the best mobility feature in the game. By a mile.
The reason why, yes, it's a really good ability for the level, but it's balanced out by the fact that Bardic Inspiration is also a bonus action. So there's balance to it. It's also very situational. It's not, you don't always want to use your bonus action for this thing. Yes, it's a really great option if you've already used Bardic Inspiration or a bonus action, or already cast a spell.
I mean, what is the flavor of it? Do you literally just do like roly-polies around the place? I mean, I think the biggest
you want to talk about flavor
in this satire is its horrendous lack of flavor in this subclass.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Excuse me? Okay, Fool's Insight at 6th level. If a creature resists your attempt to probe deeper and succeeds at its saving throw, because you get to cast Detect Thoughts a number of times per day, it immediately suffers an embarrassing social gap. It might loudly pass gas, unleash a thunderous burp, trip and fall, or be compelled to tell a tasteless joke.
Oh yes, so edgy, as you said. Pass gas and that thunderous burp.
It's the jester. It's that jester character. It's like a jester's rogue.
This would be fun in like a one shot, but after a campaign, that would get so old as you're just going around and you see you're just having.
You want to play comedian bard?
All over the place.
This is a comedian bard. You want to play a
but
jester?
You can be comedic without making NPCs fall.
That's the flavor of it. That's the flavor of the bard.
Think about that flavor. It's very niche, and I do agree with Jake that it does feel kind of one-shotty. That you're like, yes, it is very like funny. You're playing a jester. If that's what you want to do, go for it. But like, I feel like that's something that could get old pretty quickly. And let me just defend what y'all said about the scout. Look, as far, Jake, as it being flavored as a ranger and having very little to no flavor text and being boring, look, the skills speak for itself, okay? Like I said, yeah, maybe it is a little bit simple, but everything that the scout has is pretty much like, I mean, you get what you get, right? And in terms of it being flavored as a ranger, plenty of other subclasses flavored towards being like others.
It doesn't takes even the worst part about being a ranger and then uses that.
It doesn't even bring.
Cool
then why is it OP? If it's so bad with this
flavor wise,
I didn't say
flavor
that.
wise, it's bad. Mechanically, it's OP.
It doesn't even bring a new subclass name. There is already a scout, the rogue scout.
D&D already does
that. That's why it can't be brought back. It's not okay for the purpose of this argument. It is not publisher ready. It needs work. It needs revision. It needs balance. It needs flavoring, renaming. It is not ready to it can't be like, hey, Jeremy Crawford, time to publish the Scout. Can't do it. Also, real quick with Giant Soul Sorcerer, it's fine. I think it's definitely it's better than Scout for sure. I think the only problem with that is like no one really looking for it besides the power players who want to make a beefier sorcerer.
Well, no, it's got what it does is it gives you these spells depending on your giant thing that no other subclass does that, and you get your own. You get a cool ability to go off every time.
Rune Knight, it's just a Rune Knight sorcerer.
Okay, but that's a different subclass. The sorcerer doesn't have this option.
All right. Okay. So okay. It's just not what the players really want. It is just a thing people are going to take for the most part to get the mechanical boost of being a beefier sorcerer. Whereas I know people this is they're playtesting subclasses and material to give to the players what the players want to add to their games. College of Satire players want it. Players already use it. I haven't even heard of Giant Soul Sorcerer until you're like,
that doesn't matter. I don't think that.
With about 1 minute left on our chaos round, I would like to hear something specific, two specific things addressed. Firstly, on the topic of the ability to apply the superiority dice after you've seen the attack roll, that mimics the Battle Master's precision attack ability. That is an existing balance of the fighter. And then second, Oh, yes. Second, the other thing was I would like to see touched on that the Rune Knight actually developed out of the Giant Soul Sorcerer after there was feedback saying um, it should be a fighter,
Oh
which I don't
man.
necessarily agree with necessarily, but I want
Oh,
to
I
see.
agree with that.
I think it should be I think it should definitely be a sorcerer, or I mean, you could have a fighter version and a sorcerer version, because this sorcerer
Ooh.
version is built around, at least at the lower levels, is built around the spells. Like whenever you cast Firebolt, if you
You
go
know
as a
what?
fire giant, you deal extra damage equal to your con
Hey,
modifier.
you know what
Yes.
this reminds me of? It was a giant soul sorcerer. Reminds me of a land druid. It's very similar to how land druids work, and they kind of suck.
I don't
If
think
you
it's
get
similar
certain
to a land
spells for
druid.
the base of you get certain spells based on what terrain you choose, you know, like whatever giant type, and then some extra abilities with that. I don't know exactly. I stopped playing a land druid because they suck, and this is sort of similar to that.
I
And I
mean,
do agree. There's a reason why they turned it into the Rune Knight. It just makes a little more sense. No one really wants to be like, oh, my sorcerer's origin is giant. There's so many cooler options out there for
why?
sorcerers.
I mean, that's up to the player to decide. I mean, some people prefer Cthulhu if they're a warlock. Some people prefer a devil. It's up to the player's choice. And I think I don't know. I think giant is cool. I would do it. I mean, if you don't, and I mean, if we're saying it sucks, I think the Jester actually. I did mention it had this one OP ability, but its other abilities, especially its 14th level ability, is
That's
the
such a
most
cool
it
ability.
is the most underwhelming shit I've ever seen. Its 14th level ability, you expend a dice, you add to whatever roll, and then the DM punishes you later on. I mean, yes, there's flavor, but it
It's
is so
so
weak.
cool.
It is
It's
so
not a.
weak.
I think it's a finely balanced ability. There's less powerful 14th level abilities. There's more powerful 14th level abilities. It's not about what's the most mechanically optimal subclass to publish. It's what's balanced. I love Fool's Luck so much. It's so cool. Feels it just feels right, and people want to play a comedic but also sort of dark roguelike bard.
Let's move into the final statements now. Anyone can take it in whatever order they choose.
I'll go. So the point of UA, the point of putting playtest material out there is to gauge what the players want, what the players like. It's to balance and to eventually put out material that players will buy and purchase and want to have and will enjoy. I think the Call to Satire Bard fills out a niche of bard that that audiences, especially in D&D 5e, really want. Like I said, I've seen people who've already designed sort of jester-like bards before, and who I thought this was already a thing because I've heard about it so much. Players want to play it, even though it's not the most mechanically optimal. I think it's balanced. It's good among the ranks of other subclasses already out there. Players will want to play it. They will buy material. They'll buy source books and material and go in D&D Beyond, and they'll purchase the College of Satire Bard subclass because they're going to want to play it. It is fun. It's flavorful. It's unique. It's both integral to builds off of the bard while also giving new abilities. It published College of Satire Bard with the Coast, please.
Oh yeah, okay. I guess I'll go. I think if we're adding a subclass from Unearthed Arcana, I think it should bring something fresh for the class that it's going under, and I think it should be flavorful. And I think that's exactly what the Giant Soul Sorcerer is. I mean, the Scout. I mean, if you want to be an archer fighter, be arcane archer. If you want to be someone who are good at exploring, be a ranger. And the satire bards. I mean, you can be a funny bard and not be a satire bard. That's kind of the point in Hideous Laughter, Tasha's Hideous Laughter, or whatever it is. You don't need to be this idiot who rolls around making people fart, which I don't think lots of people want to play, and I think it would get old very quickly. But my one provides opportunities that a sorcerer hasn't had before. You can go down all those different routes of these different giant types. And yes, there might be a Rune Knight that's similar, but that's a fighter. Sorcerer is very different to a fighter. And you might want to be a magic caster. Yeah, that's my spiel.
Okay, I'll say this about the flavor of the Scout. Amanda, you may not like this word, but I'm going to say it: malleable. Okay, in terms of flavor, when I read it, granted, this flavor text it's not big, not nearly as the fucking novel that is the College of Satire, but like when I read it, I was like, oh, Legolas. And that's if you can immediately envision a character in your head from just reading like 2 sentences of the description, then that's enough flavor that you need. And in terms of it being so ranger-like, it's not a novel concept for subclasses in D&D to be modeled towards being similar and taking traits from other classes. Eldritch Knight, I think of Path of the Wild Soul Barbarian that doesn't just take flavor from a class and sorcerer, but a subclass of the wild magic sorcerer, right? And there's already a Scout Ranger. You say, well, guess what? There's already a giant-based subclass. It's just got a different name. So in terms of all of those things, I think Scout is a very viable thing to resurrect. It's not really that OP. I'm sure if you play tested it more, you'd realize it's balanced, and it's really good, like I said, for beginner players and people who want a martial archer instead of just some magic arrow weaving fighter, which I've played and I like. But you got to have this. You got to have this.
All right, some very strong arguments on round one. Moving on to question 2. We all have new things we want to introduce to Dungeons & Dragons. Go ahead and continue my role from the previous questions and pitch me the next Unearthed Arcana that you want to put out. Remember that Unearthed Arcana articles are not just one piece of material, but rather a collection of options that can include spells, character options, backgrounds, feats, races or lineages, and more. Tell me the theme of your UA and why we at Wizards should publish it. I will roll the dice now, excluding people from the slot they already went in. Corey, you will be going first.
Okay. Fair warning, this isn't nearly as theatrical as the last question, but I'll try my best. So my UA that I will be presenting is what I like to call the specialist options. The theme is, as I describe it, making characters that are geared towards combining mastery of both close combat and simple ranged weapons in order to create a lethal damage dealer with the flavor of characters like John Wick, Black Widow, or any of the Kingsman characters in a high fantasy setting. It will include a few feats that emphasize and strengthen grappling, improvised weapons, weapon expertise, and one that I think could be cool to include fighting while prone and getting out of prone. I have 2 ideas for subclasses. One could be the way of Specialist Monk, who uses their key points to sort of bolster their own attacks and give them, levels of agility that would make the close combat easier. And as well as the Specialist Rogue, that idea kind of fitting well into the mechanics of that class. I also have a background I call Magister, because Master doesn't sound as cool if it's not in Latin, which basically gives you Dex ability of choice, Charisma ability of choice, extra set of clothes of choice, and any common language and any exotic language of your choice. Overall, the specialist options will bring an entirely new flavor to D&D and can only begin to be replicated by what is already in the game. With these new additions, the breadth of character increases and the modes of combat and character creation in D&D can diversify even more. Let's be real here, who wouldn't want to play as high fantasy John Wick?
All right, good stuff.
Could you repeat the theme? I missed that.
Like the whole theme or just the name of it?
The name would be fine, I don't mind.
Specialist options.
John Wick type characters, blend of melee and ranged. Very cool. Definitely a fantasy lots of people try to emulate in D&D, but it's difficult to do so. Let's see, Amanda, you went second last turn, right? Okay, so Jake, you will be going second this turn.
Goody, goody. How long do you have?
So I forgot to time Corey, but I think that was around 1:30.
1:30, that is fine. Yeah, so my issue will be a pretty dark issue. I think it's good to stay with kind of current times and to make something fun out of kind of shitty situations. So this kind of theme would be kind of plague and things like that. I don't know what's so funny, but I'll continue. It's definitely going to be for a darker setting, this, but I think there's somewhat a lacking material for a darker setting. So there would be a new cleric subclass called like Plague Doctor, who would specialize in curing and administering disease, maybe has like potions of enhancing abilities and stuff, things like that. I'd also add rules for various diseases. I don't know if there's any rules, and if there is, then I would make more. So you could have diseases, fantasy or real, from, I don't know if you want to throw in leprosy or swamp foot. I mean, I made up that last one. And you could throw in a short adventure. I don't know if that's typical of these, but you could call it like the Black Death, where the party has to go around and investigate a disease that has broken out the city and try and stop it. It'll be kind of like a mystery. And you could add spells that are kind of disease-based, like ghastly fumes, plague, bring out the dead. I'm kind of going through this fast. And you can have playable races such as the zombie, or like a fancy creature called the diseased, stuff like that. I think I'm out of time.
Yes, just about. All right, some very interesting, very different options so far. Amanda, let's see what you have for us.
All right, we want an Unearthed Arcana that's going to bring in something like mechanics we haven't seen before and players will want to have and want to use. And I want to do something, a big theme for me has been cowboys, and specifically cowboy cooking. So with this UA, I am bringing in the food and cooking Unearthed Arcana. First of all, we're going to get some subclasses in there, like a druid, like circle of agriculture, specifically growing plants that are edible for food and consumption, possibly like a wizard school of dietetics, something like that. But most importantly, I want to see magical ingredients. I want to see feats like Iron Stomach, where you're like immune to any natural poison or toxin that you consume. I want rules for cooking with potions. If I want to turn my health potion into a loaf of bread, I want to be able to do that. I want to cook with potions. I also want to do things. I want to brew my own potions. This is also for brewing potions and poisons as well. Anything consumable and edible will go in here. It's no longer going to be limited to like an alchemist, artificer, or some witchy brew type. Cooking and eating should be for everyone in D&D. It is a mechanic that has not yet been explored in any officially published thing. I think this will encourage players to find these kind of unique ways to support the party. What can I say? Also it's a great opportunity to promote the D&D cookbook. So the marketing team will like that as well. And I want a cooking themed UA.
All right, just at time. Perfect. All right, so some very, very compelling, very different UAs so far. I do not have an opinion yet, and I'm excited for this chaos round. Whenever you are ready, I'll give you around 6 minutes.
I'm disappointed in y'all. First, Corey, you can play Fantasy John Wick right now. It's not that hard.
Name me the build. Name me the build.
Not off the top of my head, but
Fair
I know
enough.
you can.
Fair enough.
All that really offers is like, hey, people who want to mechanically optimize combat, weapon-based combat, here you go. It's not something new. People have already been, power gaming and min-maxing for a while. Here's just like an official way to do it.
Here's what I have to say. Here's what I have to say to that. Mm-hmm. My goal with this UA is not to optimize combat per se, but to sort of diversify it and give you more options you can do. Like the feats I mentioned, I mean, I haven't fleshed them out. I haven't written all these individual feats, but like the one that I think would be cool if you had a feat, like if someone had just knocked you prone, right? You could use this feat to do some sort of physical maneuver where you get up from prone and knock whoever knocked you prone. A lot of prone in there, but you get what I'm saying. Like these are things that I would like to add that wouldn't really make anyone stronger. It would just give the flavor that I'm kind of going for with this close quarters combat. But yeah.
Okay. I don't think it's new flavor though. At one point you said we'll bring an entirely new flavor to D&D. I think people have been playing sort of master specialists, almost like assassin types, specialist fighter types for a while. It's just a trope you can kind of apply to any,
cooking with potions is not a new thing. Like people have been homebrewing that shit forever. I've done it, and it's actually fun to homebrew that. I kind of like following my own rules in that regard. It's just saying.
You can say that about anything in D&D.
I know, but I'm just saying your idea is not wholly original either.
Nothing is going to be wholly original. D&D's been around for a while. Homebrew is a big thing. I think it's not a mechanic that already exists in the game, and having a standardized mechanic for it could be fun. It's kind of neat.
So
ship combat at one point.
It's so specific. Like, if someone doesn't like being a cook, they're just gonna look at this and they're gonna chuck in the bin. And you, Scott, as the lead designer, whatever, you want an Unearthed Arcana that will sell. This will not sell. There is not supply. There is not demand for this. It will crash. And it will
you want to talk about not selling? The plague-based UA and disease and contagion.
There is an audience for that, definitely. I think there's a big audience for that than being a cook. Like, yours has such little breadth.
A few years ago, yes.
I guess it depends on who you are, but making something fun out of something that sucks can be kind of fun. And I mean, I'm not going to put in rules for like social distancing or anything. I think, because I think that's just too far. But it's something that is lacking. Like, there are no rules for diseases. I don't know if Scott the Guru here knows if there's any official.
That's not true, but continue.
Okay, well, whatever.
We can expand them.
So are there rules for how to cook with potions?
I don't know.
Maybe with an alchemy kit. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's the point.
Right, but this is no longer
with the herbalism kit.
Well, the herbalism kit.
But it's what I'm introducing is kind of formalizing these mechanics so that it encourages, like, hey, you don't have to be a specific niche type of character to cook if you wanted to. UA is not like, hey, every game should use this. I remember, way back when there was one about ships and ship combat. Not every game uses sailing mechanics, but if you want to use it, it's there if you want to use it.
I mean, I have my own homebrew rules for my game. You guys have never once even attempted to try it out.
Because I didn't know it was an option. Introducing these formal mechanics is also suggesting to the players, hey, we put numbers to these things. We kind of told you, here's how you could do it. Now you know it's an option, right? Guess what? In our last session, I think 2 sessions ago, I had my character brew up some kind of like a spiced wine for the party. If I knew I could make that magical, I put good berries in there. If I knew I could make that magical besides just saying, hey, I'm going to throw everything into a pot, I do that.
But here's the thing.
I want to cook.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing with why that's kind of a hard thing to make as an entire UA, right? Think about the one you just mentioned with the ship combat, like, that's something you can base an entire campaign around. Like, a maritime campaign is something you can have, but you can't have a cooking campaign. like
you can't have you can have a one-shot where they're all like John Wick, these kind of badass fighter types, but that's also very specific to a character itself. And also, because I'm also bringing in not just these rules, but also subclasses. I want to play essentially a farmer druid. Oh, and speaking of subclasses, Plague Doctor, that's what the monk Way of Mercy is based around. It's the intended flavor of the Way of Mercy monk is a Plague Doctor.
Yeah, but monks are monks, so
how does the Plague Doctor thing tie into a cleric specifically?
It's a monk, so clerics are all about healing. Yeah, but this time, what?
Yes, everyone thinks cleric healing. Most cleric subclasses.
Clerics are healing. Anyway, moving on. So you need to add this flavor that this subclass will tie in very well with kind of campaign setting. And yes, if there's a monk subclass, fine. But monks are just like, I don't know, like, if you run this game that would be in this Unearthed Arcana, a monk might not be fitting, but you have this kind of Plague Doctor with I don't know what the mask is called, but that goes around with his like tray of potions and poisons, and he has cleric spells at the same time. I mean, that's the point of.
Have you seen the Way of Mercy monk?
I mean, I don't look at the monks. I skip them. I mean, again, I've just explained why it's a cleric I'm talking about, not a monk.
Okay, but no, the clerics are based in divine, having relations with the deity. That doesn't have to do with the Plague Doctor. You can have an alchemist, artificer, Plague Doctor. Way of Mercy Monk is a healer
Isn't
monk.
I just know I've seen a picture of the Way of Mercy, and it's a guy going around with a toga with like a glowing hand. That is not a plague doctor. Hold on, I'm gonna look up a picture.
That's the wrong one.
The Way
Wait.
of Mercy Monk is the one with the Plague Doctor mask.
You,
And the
really?
healing abilities.
Hold on.
I'm not like counting it against you that there is already like subclasses can duplicate flavor, but it's very much like the Plague Doctor.
Okay, I see what you're saying, and fine. But there are also already lots of subclasses that do the same thing. Like there are wizard and sorcerer subclasses, a lot of them do the same. And there would be a difference here. Yes, they're both flavored around this
So
plague doctor aspect.
What new things is your UA bringing? I sort of see
I can
some new
go
things.
through the
You can already
spells.
sort of do that stuff with the feats and mechanics already involved. Jake, what new things does Plague UA offer?
Well, okay, I think I'd make rules for diseases that you can carry. That maybe some diseases that can't just be cured by lesser restoration because, yeah. And you'd also, I'm adding spells. I named a few. You'd have a spell called Ghastly Fumes that causes some target to get a random disease. I think that's pretty fun. Everyone likes random. You have a spell called Plague. I mean, you can work with that name, but it's like an AoE poison attack. Or you could even add a new damage type. I don't know. You could. I guess you can't really call it disease. I have to work on that. But another spell, Bring Out Your Dead, which is would bring to life any that has died of disease, and these are all spells you can give to your Plague Doctor cleric. And I said that you'd even have new playable races, maybe like the disease, which would be some new fantasy creature you've added. I don't know if there's already rules for a zombie. I don't think there is in any official book.
I would hate to play as a zombie. I mean,
That's
maybe
also
others would.
Some people might want it.
Maybe.
If we're talking about specific niche.
These are just magazines. These are just magazines, and then so they're not entire like source books. These are meant for just like
you can't put a whole adventure in there either.
But you can. I just like explained there is an adventure you could put in there.
I think there's already so much for poisonous things and
just went
disease
through a list of what's
rot and death. Like
let's
AoE poison things already exist.
Let's move on to the final round where you all state your final opinions. I've let this go on 3 minutes past 6 minutes. Let's go ahead and hear the final statements.
I think for me, the biggest point I have heard against the specialist options is that it doesn't really bring as many new things to the game, which, maybe that was my bad in not describing it well enough. But like, for instance, I'll say a plan I had for the Way of the Specialist Monk was having like a hand crossbow become considered a monk weapon, and that's a small thing, sure, but it's something that I think could be very cool to introduce, and just the general like mastery of weapons and the feats in combat that I kind of already mentioned. That it's not something that I can really see making as a character right now. Like, I play a lot of martial characters, and like I've looked like Rogue Assassin, or like, I mean, there's just not something that quite fits what you're looking for with the specific sort of spy, like, very competent, like protege, like almost like prodigal, like fighter. And that's kind of why I sort of brainstormed up this UA. It's because it's something that I haven't seen flavor wise and could add a lot diversely, with combat and plenty of other things.
So what I think the food themed UA has, it offers so many new things that have mechanics that have not been introduced to the game at all. Options for subclasses, spells, magical ingredients, magic items, and new mechanics, rules for cooking and brewing. It's something that is, hasn't really been touched upon before. It is new, it is wanted. Introducing this is a way to encourage players to start thinking about other things they can do in game, other ways to use their skill checks, other approaches their characters can have, especially as support classes possibly. It no longer limits this kind of brewing kind of type to a very specific one or two subclasses. It's fun, it's new, it can be promotional if you want. I want to use it, I want it, I'll homebrew it and then pitch it to Wizards once I have a job there. I'm manifesting, it's fine.
Okay, I guess I will go. I think a new edition needs to bring in a lot of stuff that I think my one does. My one has new subclass. I'm sure you can come up with a couple of others that I have not. But yeah, have rules for diseases, have rules for some new spells, have new races. And I think it's pretty cool to kind of go with current times. I mean, we all know we're all living in a pandemic, so it might be fun to have some kind of pandemic-based campaign. And I think there's currently lacking rules for that. And I think the other two that's been said are very specific, and I think would be maybe like, I don't know, a paragraph in a source book. I mean, I don't entirely follow Corey's. I mean, I kind of just see what he's going for. I think cooking is very specific, but I don't know. I think mine is pretty cool, and I think there is an audience for that.
All right. With that question wrapped up, let's go ahead and move on to question 3, which none of my debaters have heard yet. So, finally, I've loved all of your lowly writerly suggestions for UAs, but I have some ideas of my own as head rules designer for Wizards of the Coast for what we should put out next month. For each one of you, I'm going to click this random word generator 3 times, and those 3 words are the theme of the next UA article that you're designing, put together. It will have to incorporate all 3 words. You will have 5 minutes to put together your pitch, which must conform to the vision that I have of these 3 random words. I love my own ideas equally, so convince me why your execution of these ideas I've brainstormed is the best.
Wow.
I love how we've just transitioned into design challenges for the 3rd question, because I like that. I can work with that. It's mini game time.
Is this what we like designing a new one for, like what we did for question 2, just with?
No, just an entirely new UA based on here. I'll generate some random numbers real quick. Let me see who I'm generating. First for Amanda, you are going to get a UA themed around beef, shower, and poison.
I mean, 2 of those
She
already
just did that. She just did that.
I literally just did that. Can
I'll give that one. Yeah, we'll re-roll.
Beef shower. That's a new spell.
Amanda, how do you feel about developing a UA about abortion?
No, absolutely not. I'm vetoing that.
God.
No, new choice.
Oh. Big word.
Okay.
New choice.
Flesh, ground, and ballet.
Oh, I like that actually.
Flesh, ground, and ballet. I'll give Jake and Corey, you can each have 2 vetoes as well. All right, Jake, rolling for you. How do you feel about applied, test, and guilt?
Yeah, okay, I can roll with that.
All right, Corey, we're on to you. How about flexible, swim, and right?
Yeah. Right. How's the 3rd one spelled?
RIGHT.
Okay. Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Okay, so we will pause the recording. These are obviously like excellent ideas that I've just come up with, but you know, it's all in the execution. So pause the recording, take 5 minutes. We'll come back and Amanda will start with flesh ground ballet. Okay, so we are back and everybody has come up with their UA pitches. When you start giving me your UA pitch, go ahead and remind me which 3 words. I throw out just so many awesome ideas on the daily that I can't even remember. Just now, I was fooling around with my awesome idea generator, and we got bean as censorship, which I wish I could have given Amanda.
Why?
Because bean dice.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Cowboy cooking.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw.
All right. So, Amanda, I believe you have not gone first this debate.
Yep, I always go first in the last round. I hate it, but here we are. How much time will I have to my completely awesome, your completely awesome idea, just the execution of your completely awesome idea?
I will give you 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Sounds great.
Started after, when you start explaining, first say which your which of my ideas you ran.
Your amazing idea is to make a kind of UA based on the words flesh, ground, and ballet.
All right.
Now,
when you're ready.
When I heard those words, I immediately knew what direction I want to take it in. It's a little niche, but some UAs are a little niche. Think about like the urban environments, one where you have the city cleric or the technomancer. They don't have to be universal. And I heard these things and immediately went to the haunted theater, black swan, like dark ballet vibe and setting and an environment. First of all, I want to see a bard subclass that is specifically around dance, and ballerinas, especially ballerinas, are insane. Their bodies are insane, their technique and their power incredible. I want to see the grace and the precision of a ballerina in a bard subclass. Also a warlock subclass whose patron is the the ghost that haunts a theater, like you say Macbeth, and summons it and gets some cool powers. Maybe not that actually, it's a little tacky. You get the point. I want to see magic items like enchanted masquerade masks. I want to see spells that are more spells like Otto's irresistible dance, maybe with the flesh and ground. I think undead, I think dark. I want to see someone able to control undead, like you are director and these are your dancers, you're choreographing a dance. It's like a graceful, dark theme put together. I think that the haunted theater, the haunted ballet is a very cool concept. Yes, a little niche, but it is, when it works, it works. People will want to play, will want to design characters and settings around your amazing idea. So thank you for giving me these 3 words.
All right, we're 3 seconds from time. You're welcome. Was very proud of myself for that one. Who hasn't gone second yet? Corey? All right. Which idea?
The great words of flexible, swim, right. Those 3 words.
Sage.
And let me tell you the direction that I decided to go. A little thing I like to call aquatic gymnastics, Unearthed Arcana. So the first thing will be a playable race called Atlantean. It's kind of like a half human, half Triton, or half human, half water genasi, kind of combining the stats of both of those races into a balanced sort of combination of the 2. And then we've got a few feats, 3 feats, aquatic gymnastics feat number 1. We'll say like dex saves while you're underwater, you have advantage, or dex checks, whatever, dex rolls. You have the gymnast feat, which I wish I thought more about, but just a bunch of flips and stuff that you can do, probably some bolsters to your acrobatics, something like that. And the flexible feat, which basically lets you move within small spaces that a character of whatever size, insert your size here, could usually not fit through, like certain dimensions of an opening in a wall or something, right? And then I have 2 spells. The first is called Jonathan's Flexible Right Arm. Basically giving yourself a Mr. Fantastic arm. It's not something incredibly huge or powerful, so probably like a cantrip or first level spell. And then lastly, we've got another spell, the Boneless Right Arm spell. It'll make you look like Harry Potter in the Chamber of Secrets after that Quidditch match when his arm was flipping all over the place. You can cast it on an enemy. Hopefully it can get some use.
The most unfortunate thing I've ever had to cut off.
Aquatic gymnastics UA.
Wait, real quick.
Good job, Scott.
Who's Jonathan?
He's the guy with the really flexible right arm in the lore of the Forgotten Realms.
You've heard of Mordenkainen. You've heard of Tasha. Now get ready for Jonathan.
All right, Jake, what you got for me?
I don't know if I can follow that one up. How much time do I have?
You'll have 1:30, but first refresh me on my idea.
My words were, I hope I got them right, applied test guilt. So, you know, I've gone, I think then this is going to be something that happens at the beginning of the campaign. You got some rules for schools and testing. And I think you have to also add rules for guilt, because what a school without a steady dose of guilt? But basically, at the beginning of the campaign, this would be like a session 0 potentially. Maybe you want to play it out. You have like 4 slots, and your guys can pick a class, whether that's a class to get a feat or a level in a class. And how well you do will depend how powerful you are at the end. So at the end, of course, you have to roll the dice to see how well you do on the test. When you graduate, the more guilt points you picked up, the more crippling character flaws you will have, because the education system is so great. But you know, you're going to also have a student backgrounds, teacher backgrounds. You know, you're going to have a dropout backgrounds, someone who actually did well in their classes, but I don't think that many people choose that. And then you're going to have some subclasses. You've got the bookworm subclass, probably for the wizard, maybe the jock for the barbarian or something, maybe the nerd for, I don't know, whatever. And you got some spells. You got stress wave. I think the teachers use that at school. Then you got some cheat. You instantly learn the answer to any question. You got bully. I mean, it makes someone sad. Oh, and there's a magic item called the ruler of pain.
We're at time. Okay.
I mean, guilt definitely fits into school very well.
Jake, I have one word for that, and it's just what?
Let's start the chaos round.
Where do I start?
Wow.
I mean, I like the concept of the school thing. I think your execution of it was kind of poor. Also in Tasha's, you have the sort of like group, not what is it, the group patron academy already in there, so they kind of already have school background settings, although not necessarily like your high school stereotype as a background in there. I think that the mechanic of like the testing you in that way is a little unfair, unbalanced, especially when it comes down to a roll of the die. Corey.
Exactly.
You left me speechless. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I'm sorry, yours, I just imagine a bunch of blue people running around a swimming pool. I don't know why.
I mean,
Dude,
I wish you included, like, I'm already thinking about better ways to have interpreted that. Like, I know it's already the merfolk race, but like more abilities for mermaids and things and underwater combat. Would have loved to see that. So I'm already making a better version of your.
But I mean, with your one, where is flesh and ground? It sounds entirely ballet.
So I didn't go as
ground
literal
exists.
as you guys.
Yeah, but
Flesh and ground, I think it makes me think of undead. It makes me think of monsters and edgy things, and like the kind of undead, haunted.
That's been done
cabaret
like
theater
50 times. I mean, there's like 5 ready-made adventures for that kind of thing, or more.
Yeah, and this is adding more mechanics to it. There's already things made for schools.
It just sounds like there's ballet mechanics.
I want ballet mechanics. I mean, have you seen ballerinas are fucking badass.
Yes, and I think the idea of a dancing bard subclass is cool, but I don't think you're really making the most out of Scott's brilliant revolutionary idea. I think you should have done more with the flesh.
I don't think you are either.
I mean, well, you only have 5 minutes.
I want a
Designers have rules.
necromancer. I want a theater-themed necromancer who, puts on a performance using zombies. And I want mechanics for that. I want how you're going to choreograph a group of zombies to do your bidding in a graceful and elegant way.
I mean, this is
Like,
dancing, though. I mean, that's just dancing. I mean, like, fine, you're using the flesh there, but I mean, it's kind of like you're focusing on only a third of Scott's ideas.
I'm taking the vibes of all of it. I'm building off of the wonderful
I don't know. I don't feel those vibes
and evolving it into a marketable, fun product.
I think that people would hear that and be like, oh, dancing, that's pretty cool. Oh, another undead mansion that we all have to go through. I don't think there's
already an academy background thing again in Tasha's.
I mean, that's one background though. You don't have mechanics for like a school. You don't have.
No, that's what it's like, a group patron situation.
Oh no, okay, that's not a school, but that's not a school. Group patron. That's
academy?
Like.
Here's the
nobody.
book.
Okay, but again, that's just
a great picture
thing.
of some
there is hardly any,
and they're a cute gay couple.
But there is hardly any mechanics for group patron. There's just like a few like role-playing recommendations. This actually has mechanics for at the beginning. Like it's fun to make a joke out of a school which everyone has varying opinions of. I mean, that's kind of what this is. It's just kind of making fun out.
There's academy quests.
Jake,
oh wow, this is so fun. Oh, roles: student, groundskeeper, professor, researcher, financer, expert seeker.
Roles, but what does that mean?
They correlate to backgrounds.
Are there rules for those backgrounds?
I mean, they correlate to pre-existing backgrounds.
Okay, so pre-existing
kind of
backgrounds.
Any of yours.
Jake, I'll say this about your UA: the subclasses don't make sense to me.
No, they don't.
Like you're correlating like high school stereotypes with a subclass that you can add to the classes, but that's not.
I mean, I guess yeah, I probably shouldn't have gone down the road because the kind of the point in school is you kind of go learn the already existing ones. You don't go to school to learn how to become a bookworm. So I admit the subclasses, I shouldn't have attempted that. I just kind of spit that out there.
I'd like to hear more about Corey's because we've heard a lot about Amanda's and a lot about Jake's. I'd like to hear more about water aerobics. I
mean, what is going on there? Can you actually explain that?
Yeah, I need you to elaborate.
This sounds like the movie Cats in Water. I don't know why, but that's what I'm getting.
I've never heard of that movie, but this Unearthed Arcana, the theme is like, how can you take the best parts about synchronized swimming and put them into D&D by taking some swimming aspects, like a new race, playable race in the Atlantean, as well as the aquatic gymnastics feat, which does add quite a good bit of dynamic, combat, mechanics to with a feat, and the sort of gymnastics of it all with the gymnast feat, which just sounds like it should be a thing, and the flexible feat, which I actually think could be very useful and fun to take. And then
well, where's the word right in there?
Jonathan's flexible right arm, boneless right arm. What? Those are spells.
That
okay.
is not using. That is not using.
Let's hear some final statements.
I'll go first because here's the thing. I want to say my biggest thing is I've already thought of better UAs for both of you guys. Just now I thought of, for Jake, I would have loved to see a warlock whose patron is knowledge itself, based off this idea of knowledge is power and is so fueled by greed and guilt to keep seeking and keep learning and keep getting knowledge, gets magical powers derived from their pursuit of knowledge. I want to see you explore dark academia a little more. You went really literal. Same with you, Corey. You went so literal and you kind of prioritized these base words themselves instead of actually building a feasible, cool, and interesting UA. I think mine is something players would want to see, while a little niche and specific, builds off of a trope that is already beloved by nerds in general, and have potential for some really cool things, cool mechanics, new cool spells and subclasses that both I want to see, Scott, I think you want to see, and that D&D community wants to see.
Who's next?
I'll go. Amanda, you kind of already addressed this, and I mean Jake addressed it too, but it's a very kind of niche UA that, like, although neat in concept, would probably not get a whole lot of use because of just kind of how specific it is, and kind of the only kind of singular things it offers in the ballet and sort of the undead aspect, which I also agree is kind of ubiquitous already in D&D, and the undead aspect doesn't cater itself to being anything new. And then Jake, I have a hard time understanding yours. It doesn't feel like it caters very well to the way D&D is like kind of played in general. And with mine, maybe it's a little bit zany, maybe it's a little bit random, but there are a lot of cool things you can add to D&D that aren't in the rule books that have to do with being underwater and being flexible and swimming and right arms. So yeah.
All right. And Jake, what do you got? What do you got? Final
What have I
statement.
got? Well, I think one of the points on Unearthed Arcana is actually to add new things, and I think Amanda's idea adds next to nothing. I think the idea of a dancing bard is already possible. Like, any bard can just dance. I think Corey does better in this. I think to be honest, I don't really know what's going on with Chorus, but I mean, Amanda's saying that she's thinking of better things. I mean, she's just adding things that could be added to this. I mean, I only need 5 minutes. She's already, I mean, yes, there's obviously more than 4 lines of what I've written that you could add to it. And I don't know, I think this adds new mechanics that kind of makes fun out of something already in our lives. And I think it could definitely be worked on, but I think there's stuff to do. I think it's a fun, because session 0 is so like there's no rules behind it. I think this might be a fun option for DMs to take at the beginning of session 0.
All right. So that wraps up the third question. Let me tally up some points here. Okay. How would you all like the breakdown? Question by question, or start with final scores and then go down the question list?
Amanda, what order would you like to figure out that you won?
By 6 points.
Yeah, let's start with that then.
Okay, so the breakdown, Amanda, we had you at 20 points. Jake came in second with 14 points, and Corey came in third with 13 points. The breakdown of that, on the first question, I had Amanda winning. Jake came in second, and Corey came in third. The specific reasoning for that, Amanda, you made a very nice balance of like the flavor and the mechanics. You went through some very specific abilities that you liked about it, and you did make the, like, you're talking to the head rules designer about something that would make money. I liked that angle a lot, and you got a bonus point for that. Jake, you got a bonus point for appealing to my, I like high con and I like sorcerers. I liked your thing. You did a good job with it. Corey, also a good job. There were no bad showings on this one. I just didn't hear as much from you on why it should be pushed ahead of the others. For the second one, I had a tie between Jake and Amanda for first. I gave you both 6 points. You had very well fleshed out UAs that I thought were about equal in terms of like addressing something that sure has some rules, but expanding them out a little bit more. There was a little bit of a balance. I thought probably diseases were more broadly applicable to most campaigns, but there were more rules for diseases already, so I had you all tying on that one. And then for the last one, the order I went, Amanda, I mean, you made a cool UA. Corey's, yours cracked me up. Jake, I didn't really understand. I didn't get whether this was like pre-campaign or whether this was like a concept for a campaign. like a fantasy high style thing. Either way, good showing from everybody. Amanda, congratulations.
Finally. Also, wait, you understood Corey's more than Jake's in that last round?
Yeah, I did.
Corey, that's a victory for you. That's a W on its own.
I mean, it was all Scott's idea.
I got the vision. All right, perfect. So tell us in the comments who should have won. I mean, this one was a pretty decisive one, guys.
Anyway, Wizards of the Coast, I'll be applying for your internship next summer. Look out for that. Should I put some on my CV or something? Hire me, please.
All right. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.